So if you'd like to hear any lore, and I mean any lore whatsoever, consider checking out the Patreon, because even at the $1 tier, your voice is heard all the way from the $1 to the $10 tier. Your voice is heard when it comes time, when I put the poll up every single week to hear what you guys want to hear from the lore. And this week's lore, coming to us by way of Patreon, is on Flack and Shrapnel from Fallout 3. A partnership between two men in the capital wasteland running Flack and Shrapnels, a store in Rivet City selling weapons and ammo. Now, here's something that I didn't know and thought was incredibly interesting. Flack and Shrapnel are gay. Flack is. Shrapnel's actually a bisexual. Doesn't mean he's any less gay, he's in a gay relationship, but I had no clue. I feel like this might have been common knowledge for a ton of folks. This is completely new to me, and I've played this game for 2,000 hours. I have never been in their room. I didn't realize they only had one bed. I never once thought these are two bros that bone. Apparently this is common knowledge. Like I said, never once did I ever think, hey, these guys are getting busy. I don't know why, I just never put two and two together. It's actually, like a celebrated thing of just being normalized homosexuality. It's not like, I am gay and that's my entire character because I'm on a Netflix show. It's very much, these are two gay dudes. These are two men that love men hanging out, doing what they have to do, living normal lives. There's a ton of gay representation in Fallout. Fallout 2 is the first Western-sold game to include same-sex marriage. There's a ton of queer characters, some being Tandy, Arcade Gannon, Veronica Santagello, a bunch of people. Technically, all of the companions from Fallout 4 are bisexual because you can sleep with all of them. Doesn't matter on your gender. And also Tim Kaine, the man who invented Fallout, like the head guy, it's like him and two other people, is a gay man. So I think it's cool that this is just two characters that are normal characters, and they have this about them, and I had no clue this about them 15 years later, 2,000 plus hours. Flack and Shrapnel's The store was founded sometime after Flack left the slaving lifestyle and left Paradise Falls on bad terms. Now let's talk a little bit about Flack, because like I said, he is a former slaver. Flack, born around 2227, a 50-year-old man. This is the same age as Shrapnel as well, but we're on Flack right now. Not as aggressive as Shrapnel, and he used to be a slaver in his younger days. Would buy and sell humans, and would run security for slaving parties. So this is a man, a dangerous man, who surrounds himself with weapons, who understands the way a gun works. The way I read it off the wiki, and I get all of my lore off of fallout.fandom.com, the way I read it off the wiki was very much, he is a man who understands the inner workings of a gun better than he understands, like, the inner workings of any person he's ever met. Like, people don't make sense to him. Guns do. That's very much the way I read it, in the sense where, like, Shrapnel doesn't care about one or the other. He just does things as an ends to a means. Because of him abandoning Paradise Falls and the slaver lifestyle, he has a pretty large contract on his head. In the quest Strictly Business, the slaver Grouse, who's the guy outside of Paradise Falls, will say he wants you to put a collar on his neck. It's actually one of the only times that I know of them being referred to openly as gay. One of the times I should say, and it's kind of in a derogatory sense. Grouse can say, "How the hell did you get old Queen Flack into that collar?" In the sense of, you have to go put collars on these people. There's something else I'd like to say about how dangerous of a man, how calculatedly dangerous of a man Flack is, or comes off. After he left slaving, he opened Flack and Shrapnel's and operated it for years. He's a practical man who isn't afraid of death and dying. He knows all of the tricks. He's a man who's been around. He's 50. He's been a slaver. He's done nefarious things to get by in life. One of the things that he's done is, if you ask him about any of the weapons that he has on the counter at Flack and Shrapnel's, he'll tell you, this is garbage. Like, if you steal, not only have you stolen and then taken away the ability to buy things from them being one of the more prosperous prisoners in the wastes, they have good supplies. Flack can repair things. You've stolen from them. You've stolen garbage. You've stolen a gun that is going to jam. It is going to stop working soon. It's a smart move. It's not a move that I would have ever thought of. It's just a smart move. Because of his approach to business, he doesn't like to push any of his wares onto the customers. He gives them their space, and because of this, they've seen massive turnover. It's not directly said on the wiki, but I very much took it as Flack and Shrapnel is the probably second highest generator of income for Rivet City's economy. It's probably them and the Muddy Rudder, because everybody needs to drink. Because I can get a cigarette at the bar and smoke and drink, so I forget about my pain, and I'm also not hungry for a little while because I'm smoking a cigarette. Then I'm a little liquored up, I go up to Flack and Shrapnel's and I buy a little more ammo or a nice shiny gun that I maybe can't afford, but hey, it's nice to have. He's a very straightforward attitude towards everyone in Rivet City, but he keeps everyone except for Shrapnel at an arm's length. He doesn't want people near him, he doesn't need people near him. This is also a man who grew up in a wasteland doing, like I said, nefarious stuff, and you learn to keep people at a distance. And there's actually like a beautiful love story here. These are two awful men, one a former raider, one a former slaver, who came together, fell in love with each other, presumably, and just decided, hey, we don't need to necessarily be the way that we are, but, there's a trauma, there's a way of living now that you're so used to a certain way of life in the wasteland. So they kind of live with each other and do domestics and enjoy each other's company and love each other, presumably, but they also have to live with the trauma of living in a wasteland, a destroyed wasteland. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a great story. It's also Flack is such a feared individual that he never once kept his homosexuality a secret. It was open. He was not ashamed of it. He was not to be picked on for it. He was not to be made fun of, and nobody paid it any attention. Because, and I'm not saying this is how the world of Fallout is or isn't, but even if they were to say something about him being a gay man, he was so feared, so brutally feared that they were just like, do not say anything. He can have relations with whoever he chooses. Out of everybody in Rivet City, other than Shrapnel, the only person that he really has a soft spot for is Trini, who is a prostitute in Rivet City. So that's one half of Flack and Shrapnel. Let's talk about Shrapnel. A fierce former raider who has seemed to settle down but can never quite settle down. He and Flack both run Flack and Shrapnel's shop together. He still has the temper and the demeanor of a younger raider, and it made me think when I was writing this, how much is it nurture versus nature, right? So how much is it I'm born a raider, I will die a raider, and how much of it is I was born into this, I was molded by this, and now I can't seem to escape this, and it's just what works for me. It's so hard to admit I was wrong. It's so hard to say sorry. It's so hard to say maybe the things that we were taught are wrong, but the people who taught it to us are people that we love and respect, and it's hard to acknowledge that the people that we love and respect have faults. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm just applying too much headcanon, too much thought to a 15-year-old game to this, but how much is this of him being like, I can't stop this, and how much is the other half of him going, yeah, no, this is just the way I am. Just I want blood and sinew for dinner. Flack has asked Shrapnel to at least be a little more pleasant, a little more positive to others, and he begrudgingly tries. But, like every good raider, like every good man in the wasteland, he has to have some sort of a vice, and Shrapnel falls ill to the disease of alcoholism. He drinks at the Muddy Rudder, the Rivet City bar, and he binge drinks while he is there. If you catch him while he's down there, you can hear him order a whiskey straight. Just whiskey. No ice, no water, no nothing. He's a man who, I feel like they gave Flack a little more backstory. I feel like Flack and Shrapnel's backstories are just kind of entwined because they're a couple. But Shrapnel very much feels like a man who is just trying to get by and found an out. so he didn't have to live in constant fear, but he still doesn't want to be around people. He's still violent. Out of Flack and Shrapnel, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think I've interacted more with Flack than I have with Shrapnel. He's there. He is there to keep a presence. He is their bodyguard and their salesman. And I love this couple, man. I really do. I never knew that they were dudes who love dudes. I never knew that they were gay. I think it's even cooler that I found out 15 years later that they're gay. I love their story. I think it's fantastic. Both he and Flack have very violent, dark pasts and prefer not to talk about it. I could understand that. I can absolutely understand that. There comes a point where you have to turn your brain off and not think of what has happened to you. Maybe that's why he drinks. Maybe. I'm not saying it's right, but maybe that's what happens. He's also a raider, and they kind of just live off of sex and drugs and caps and ammo. But like I said earlier, he is a bisexual man, and he spent one night with Trini, the prostitute, in Rivet City, and regrets it, completely regrets it, hated it, did not enjoy himself. And Shrapnel kind of gives him some shit about it, and Trini will, always hound him for drinks, and Flack will wind up buying them for her. Flack and Shrapnel are one of the only merchants in the entire game that have a constant supply of mini nukes, and every 3 days their inventory replenishes where you can get a new one. They're super cool. I love them. I love that they're just there. I love that they are just, we are to ourselves. I never, like I said, never once knew that they were gay the entire time I've been playing this game. They're fixtures in my mind of the Wasteland. When I think of Capital Wasteland, I think of Rivet City. I think of Flack and Shrapnel more than I think of any other shop, even the Muddy Rudder to an extent. I think Flack and Shrapnel before that. Super cool. I think they're great for Monster Month. I thank you for sticking around, because that is this week's lore. Hey, wasn't that clip great? Wasn't that a whole lot of fun? If you like that, consider listening to the whole podcast of Atomic Radio Hour. We do Fallout lore, but we also do a ton of other fun stuff. On screen right now are a couple of names that I have to thank. These fine folks are part of our Patreon. From the $1 tier to the $10 tier, every single week, your voice is heard when I ask a poll concerning the lore. And also at the $10 tier, you can watch the podcast episodes get recorded live. I want to thank these fine folks. I love you, each and every one of you. Thanks for checking us out. Stay tuned for a recommendation for what I think you should watch or YouTube thinks you should watch. And also, subscribe to my channel. Throw it a like. Give it a comment. See you guys soon. Love you.